31st of August, 2019. Geez, I hope that kiss. Okay. Um, the legendary Lewis Hamilton was left absolutely speechless by what he had just seen. Oh, that's a horrible accident. The sunny Belgian Grand Prix began like any other, but for some that silence would become permanent. The Formula One weekend started off at a special way right from the start. Charles Leclerc secured pole position, finally within reach of his first Grand Prix victory. But he wasn't the only one with a shot at triumph. His childhood friend, Antoine Hubert, was also on the grid. Right after Formula One qualifying, the Formula Two race began, in which he took part. In 2019, Hubert had been the standout rookie in Formula Two, claiming two remarkable sprint race victories. One on the legendary streets of Monaco. It's side by side on the line, and the other on home soil in France at the very next round. As you know, both of these races had a deep personal meaning for LLA. But they were united by more than just friendship. Since childhood, they'd climbed the ranks together, competing alongside Pierre Gasly and George Russell. In the press, headlines often proclaimed power struggle between Huber and Gasly. But they weren't just rivals. They were kids chasing the same dream, growing together, bound by an unbreakable connection. Looking at where his peers were now, it seemed as if they were all destined for greatness. Antoine may not have been hailed as a prodigy, but he was improving with every season. And in 2019, he proved it. Now, Belgium was his chance to show that he was next in line for Formula One. Sadly, he failed to qualify near the front, securing only 13th place. But Hubert remained confident and composed, ready to show the world what he was capable of. It's a really happy area every year to come back to Spa. And now let's try to have a good race and enjoy it even more. What would be a good race in your book? Today, at least back to the top 8, and if we can maybe more some reverse grid magic maybe to come on Sunday. Good luck, Antoine Hu. This was a feature race, meaning that for everyone in that weekend. It took place right after qualifying for the F1 Belgium Grand Prix. When the green flag dropped, it was game on for everyone. By the end of the first lap, Antoine had already gained a position, and it looked like he was on track to achieve his goal. At least back to the top 8, and if we can, maybe more, on lap 2. Interesting. Oh, there's a big crash there. There's a car who lost it. Oh, that's a horrible accident. Lewis Hamilton could not contain his emotions. Holy jeez. Oh, wow. Was a horrible accident. Geez, I hope that kid's good. Okay. He couldn't believe he was seeing something bad. Both Antoine, Hubert and Correa were carried to the medical center of the circuit. Correa, Hubert, and the doctors kept fighting to stay alive. Correa ended up getting 3 surgeries and ended up in stable condition. But Antoine Hubert just over an hour later passed away. A French racing driver, Antoine Hubert, has been killed in a Formula 2 crash at the Belgian Grand Prix. On August 31st, 2019, Antoine Hubert left this earth for a better place. Never thought that I was speaking to a driver at 3 so in the afternoon, and by 9:30 p.m., I was lifting his coffin. And just like that, one of the most promising stories in F1 had gone away forever. In a brutal reminder of everything the drivers risk every time they step into the car, Antoine Hubert, fighting for his dreams, ultimately lost his life at a sport that worked so hard to become safer and safer. It was still a reminder that anything could happen. It was lap 2, Al Rouge. The crash started with Giuliano Alesi losing control. At over 300 kilometers an hour, his car slammed into the barriers, bouncing back onto the track and spraying debris everywhere. Ralph Bossung swerved to avoid the wreckage, but just behind him, Antoine Hubert had no time to react. At full speed, his car clipped Bossung's, sending him straight into the tire wall. The impact was brutal, but the nightmare wasn't over. His car rebounded back onto the track, right into the path of Juan Manuel Correa. Correa, already struck by debris, had no control. He crashed into Huba at over 200 kilometers an hour. The force was devastating. The damage to his body was completely catastrophic. Severe thoracic trauma, massive internal bleeding, and multiple fractures. And just 90 minutes later, Antoine Hubel was gone. Why was this crash so deadly? The accident happened at Eau Rouge, one of the most dangerous corners in motorsport. Its elevations, shift plays with downforce. 1 second the car is glued to the track, the next it's floating. Any sudden movement at these speeds can turn into catastrophe. That's why the FIA introduced changes that would alter this track forever. But more on that later. For now the drivers were focused, the aftermath on, preparing for the next day. Everyone in the paddock loved Antoine, but now on Sunday, they still had a race to go with. But no one was a harder hit than Charlotte Claire, who was a lifelong friend of Hubert. They grew up together, walked the same path, and shared a common dream. But in an instant, it all came to an end. He was gone. Lair had just secured the third pole position of his career, with the previous two had ended in disappointment. The pressure was mounting. But just imagine what it felt like to be in his place. He had already lost loved ones on the track. In 2014, his godfather, G. Bianchi, passed away. And now, standing on the brink of the biggest opportunity of his life, he'd lost his childhood friend. But where many of us wouldn't have the strength to go on, Lair turned that grief into pure focus. As soon as the green light hit, and its lights, out away we go. Great stuff for Albon. Science has stored on the grid. Cleric drove like a man possessed, with all his heart in every corner, in every turn, staving off a raging Hamilton to achieve his first Formula One victory. The first time ever, Schiller wins a Formula One Grand Prix. First victory in F1. This one is hard. Feels good, but yeah, difficult to enjoy on a weekend like this. After Theras, an emotional Lair dedicated his triumph to his fallen friend. And I've got a dream since being child that has been realized. And on the other hand, it has been a very difficult weekend since yesterday. We have lost a friend, first of all. So yeah, I would like to dedicate my first win to him. We have grown up together. My first ever race, I've done it with Antoine when we were younger. There was Esteban Pierre. Lair took the inspiration of his friend and won again the next weekend. His second F1 win in a row in front of him. Pierre Gasly, who was part of their friend group, was perhaps Antoine's closest friend. We shared a bedroom. We were classmates. We would have breakfast, lunch, dinner together. And this lasted from 13 to 18. Gasly would keep Antoine's memory alive every year in Belgium, placing flowers at the turn where Antoine lost his life. Gasly honors his friend by pushing harder than he ever did, achieving a podium. And then he would win his first Grand Prix in an AlphaTauri of all cars, and dedicate his victory to his friend. Everyone knew in that moment when he's looking to Theskis. Everyone knew who he was thinking about. Everyone knew who he's pointing to, so every year in his honor, he organizes the race for Antoine. Just everyone to come a son. The flowers is something more personal to me, and a connection which I want to keep with my friends. Antoine's death shook the Formula One community to its core, and forced the sport to evolve. The FIA knew they had to act. One of the biggest concerns was debris. A minor crash could trigger a chain reaction, turning an avoidable incident into a catastrophe. To counter this, the FIA expanded the use of tethers, not just for wheels, but for front and rear wings as well, reducing the chances of flying debris causing secondary impacts. But the most critical lesson from Hubart's accident was impact absorption. Unlike most crashes, he wasn't struck head-on or from behind. He was hit from the side where the car was most vulnerable. In response, the FIA mandated increased side and frontal cockpit strength, ensuring drivers could survive even higher impact forces. They didn't stop there. The FIA also introduced changes to front-wheel design and improved in-car notification systems, giving drivers real-time data on tire pressure and hazardous track conditions, critical information that could prevent another disaster. And then there was Al Rouge, the turn that had taken Hubert's life. The FIA expanded its runoff areas and introduced gravel traps designed to slow cars down and prevent the kind of lethal rebound that had sealed Hubert's fate. It was a painful lesson, but one that reshaped Formula One's safety forever. These changes collectively have helped Formula One prevent any further incidents, have helped reduce so many more dangerous challenges. For example, Romain Grosjean's crash in the Bahrain 2020 Grand Prix showed how far it came. Antoine Hubert was not just another driver. He was a competitor, a fighter, a dreamer. His life, though tragically cut short, will forever be remembered in the world of motorsport. Antoine was a good friend, but also a great competitor that I've had throughout my career. But in my head, it was all clear that I wanted to do something great for him.